Hey, everybody, Dave Hagan here. Today, I want to talk about the Great Resignation. Apparently, all sorts of people are quitting their jobs. We'll sort this out today on the Financial Wellness Podcast.
Welcome to the Financial Wellness Podcast, Dave's weekly message to keep you on your path to financial success. Here is your host, financial problem solver and talk show host, Dave Hagan.
Hey, everybody, and welcome to this week's edition of the Financial Wellness Podcast, or the TFWP as we like to call it. You're listening to episode 422 in our fourth season. Far past what most podcasts last. Brian's got the week off, but we have something special here today. We've got our announcer, Nick Appel, and he is with us, taking a break from the bar exam. Nick, how's it going?
Hey, Dave. Thanks again for that that little sentence. Yeah, I mean, I guess if you can call it a break, we're still always working here at TFWP.
Right. And I did say the bar exam, not a bar. He's not taking a break from the bar. The bar exam, or actually bar exam preparation. So what are you, in week 8 or something?
Yeah, just around that.
Oh, you got another 3-4 to go?
Yeah, I think today is actually the start of a 30-day countdown.
Oh my God. Well, good luck to that. And thanks for taking a break and coming back to us for a little bit of relief from the studying. Appreciate it.
Of course, Dave.
So, hey, everybody, it's good to be back. We're coming out of this big COVID-19 thing. And just think about this. A year ago, June 2019, how crazy was that? We were thinking, how many people are going to die? How many millions of people are going to die? We just didn't know. Could have been less, could have been more. Turns out it was about 600,000, which was the same as the flu that we had in 1918. We were thinking, hey, the economy's closed up, buttoned up. We're all hanging out, getting takeout delivered. Is the economy going to fail? We were thinking, are we going to be able to figure out how to put together a vaccine in time? Remember, we said 8 to 10 to 12 years to develop a vaccine. These were the things that we were talking about a year ago. And now it's almost over. I mean, we're full of comeback stories. We're full of things opening up. It's a really great time. Any comeback stories that come to mind there, Nick?
I would say it's nice to, it's just nice to see the economy kind of thriving. I was really scared for, many business owners, still having to pay rent and having their businesses shut down. So, it's really nice. And, I went to the Padres game the other day and can't wait to talk about that. And the Dodgers getting swept.
You're not a Padres fan.
No, but, I do like to root for the home team. And so I am a Dodgers fan, but it's a real mix of emotions, Dave, when you're there.
Yeah, I'll bet. Huh? You wore your Kershaw jersey. Don't you have a Kershaw jersey?
Yeah, I wore my Kershaw jersey. Kershaw pitched that night.
Nice.
And
did people say stuff to you?
Oh, yeah.
In the jersey?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, my goodness. Just people should relax and take a chill pill and just take it all in, right?
Yeah, well, I would say that I think this year is the first year that the Padres are in contention. Maybe not for the pennant, but they have a great team. Tatis and their pitching rotation is great.
That's good stuff. Yeah, no, they got a good team. From my point of view, not as good as the Dodgers, but hey, they got a good team. Tell me a little bit about the crowd. What was the crowd like, and how'd you feel in the crowd?
I felt safe. Well, first of all, I have both of my Pfizer shots, so I feel safe. And I mean, it's just like back to normal. I mean, it's pretty much pre-COVID.
Was it pretty weird to be in a crowd? I mean, I think I would be a little freaked still.
I would say I'm not freaked, but
Okay.
I have a less safe perception of the virus, and I believe other people do.
Mm-hmm.
What I mean by that is I feel safe, being inoculated with the vaccine, but it was just, to me, it was really nice. It was it caused me some relief from being around so many people, and just because I'm a very personable person.
Mm-hmm.
So I really just enjoyed it.
Yeah. You mentioned the shot a couple times. You've had both your shots, yeah?
Yeah, for about 2 months now.
Oh, good for you. Any side effects? I mean, everyone was talking a couple months ago about side effects. You have any side effects?
Not that I know of, Dave.
Not really.
Fortunately, after I got the shots, my arm, I had a little discomfort, a little pain, but I heard other people had headaches, and I've seen on the news recently about something going on with people's hearts. I really don't know,
Yeah.
but
Yeah.
fortunately for me, I'm pretty good.
I had both of mine, and I got to tell you, I had quite a big side effect. With my arm. It for like a day afterwards. It hurt. I mean, it felt like someone stuck a needle in it. It was the
I
damnedest thing.
agree.
Yeah.
I mean, to me, it didn't feel like a needle. It felt like almost like a knife or another object. But yeah, I agree with you.
Speaking of the Dodgers, when I went in for the shot, they said, "Well, which arm?" And I said, "Well, left, because I'm saving the right for tonight. I'm pitching for the Dodgers." And the gal goes, "Really?" I said, "No, no, that's not the case. But would you like my autograph?" She goes, "No, not really." I said, "How about my initials?" No.
Too funny.
I tell you what I like. I like seeing more people out exercising. I see people eating together in clusters outside. I love seeing people outside in greater numbers, um, doing their thing. I love being able to go into a restaurant. I haven't been into too many, but last night my wife and I were sitting inside a restaurant watching the cooks cook the stuff, and it's just nice to be out and about a little bit, and that's kind of nice. It's kind of
Yeah,
nice.
I mean, kind of piggybacking off that, it's also nice not that just us get to experience it, but we get to see other people
Yeah.
experiencing living life too.
Yep. No, so true. So true. Yeah, I think that this should give us a huge amount of gratitude. I mean, we developed this vaccine in less than a year, about a year, whatever it was. Uh, we're substantially past it, not completely past it. Could have been worse. Seems to me it could have been worse. We lost about the same amount of people as the flu epidemic of 1918, but bear in mind the population was a lot smaller then. So as a percentage of the population, our issues were less than back then. But on the good side, after 1918 came the roaring 20s and all that booming economy and spending and blah, 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 blah. So maybe we're on for
Whoa, Dave, are
some
you
kind of
saying
ride, man.
are we going to have another prohibition? What's going
No,
on?
nothing like that. Well, maybe, you never know. I doubt it. I doubt it. But I think we're going to see people buying goods and services, and I think that that'll be good for a lot of parts of the economy. And I think that this should give us an attitude of gratitude. And we've talked about that before. Remember back in episode 144, what was that, like 2 years ago, 2.5 years ago? We talked about the benefits of this outlook on our lives. So if any of you did not check out that episode 144, our first season, actually, probably in about September of our first season, check it out. The attitude of gratitude. But today I want to talk about the great resignation. That's what people are calling it. There's an article by Anthony Klotz, who's an associate professor of management at Texas A&M, and he has generally been associated with this term, the great resignation. And what's happened is, apparently, according to the Bureau of Labor Statistics, 4 million people resigned or quit their jobs in April. And among those in the hospitality and retail industry, 5 out of every 100 people, 5%, have quit or resigned. And the rate is also high among white collar workers. Some of our listeners may remember we talked about a month ago a recent survey that said that almost 40% of millennials would quit their job if they had to go back to the office full time. So why are all these people quitting their jobs? And what is the relationship, or what's the takeaway from that? So the first question is, why are there so many people quitting their job? Why is it so high? I think I saw somewhere someone said it was like a 20-year high in terms of people quitting their jobs. Well, first of all, number one, I think there's a buildup of people from last year that were going to quit their job anyway. They just couldn't quit it from home, or they couldn't quit it on furlough. So there's kind of a backlog of people that are walking away. So that might be one reason. Maybe another reason is people have had a chance to reflect on their jobs over the past year, and they're going, wow, I could do better than that. Another reason, great jobs are available. People are leaving their jobs. Remember, we talked with our resident millennial, Amanda, and she said that before she got asked back to her job, she got a better job moving up the food chain. So her job is now available, and there's a lot of people that are going to apply for her job, which she said was a really good job. So as people are moving around, as people have resigned and quit and gone under other things, there are a lot of jobs, great jobs up the food chain, if you will, that are available. So people are leaving their old stuff behind. And maybe the biggest reason, hey, people really like to work for the most part at home. It seems to work. I mean, I remember a year ago thinking, oh, no one, Zoom, people aren't going to work at Zoom. They're not going to work from home. They won't get stuff done. They'll be going to the refrigerator all day, which is like what I would probably do. But it actually worked. People got more done because they appreciated not having to get in the car. They appreciated not having to do all the things that they needed to do to go to work. And they didn't have to do all the chit chat and all the stuff that goes along with being in the office. So they liked it and they produced. Maybe another reason why there's more is because many people have saved money over the last year, and they're no longer paycheck to paycheck. I think there's a lot of people that actually saved money because they didn't have to buy new clothes, because they didn't have to pay for gas. Those that were fortunate to be able to keep their jobs, and they've been able to put some money aside. And, paycheck to paycheck, whenever I hear politicians talk about that on TV, I cringe, because I think that's one of the biggest problems of our economic day. Besides income disparity, paycheck to paycheck is, people just accept it as a norm, and it shouldn't be. And I think people are starting to think differently if they've been able to put together some money. They're not day to day. They've got an emergency fund, and I think that's a good thing.
Well, Dave,
Yeah.
I have one more possible reason, but that wasn't previously mentioned. How about employers who are mandating that their employees get vaccinated before they come back to work?
Spoken like a true law student, bringing up a cutting legal issue.
I think it's really, really interesting, because there was a notice at my law school, because I used the library to study, and it said that all students and employees and staff must be vaccinated by X date. So it's very interesting.
Wow. So I think there's two schools of thought on that, right? I mean, one is a private enterprise should be able to control who walks into the front door, as long as they're not discriminating in terms of, race and gender and other
protected classes.
Other kinds of protected classes. Exactly. And it's for the health and welfare and well-being of their people. On the other hand, do these people who had some kind of pre-existing relationship with the private entity, whether it be a school or or a business, have some kind of vested rights to complete their schooling or to enter into that, or and that is really some competing interests. Are you seeing a lot of people talking about that in the legal field down there?
I am, but I think it's very interesting, because, fun fact, it's not the first time in the schooling system that we mandate that children or students have shots. I mean, I believe when I went to elementary school, I had to have the polio vaccine. I had to have measles, chickenpox, the whole shebang. So it's not the first time that, this might have been challenged, or it's not even challenged yet, but discussed.
Yeah. And I think it's it's potentially, ripe for making its way all the way to the Supreme Court because there's valid interests on, both sides. If it were me, not that big of a deal. Shoot me in the arm, my arm hurts for a day. Big deal. I'm comfortable with the sheer volume of statistics, number of people that have gotten the shot as opposed to people that have had some kind of reaction. But that's me. Some people might have a hard time with that, might have a problem with it. I know people that have had a problem with that. And my response to them is, you do what you got to do. I can help you. I'm going to do mine. I can help with the percentages. I just hope that you don't run into a situation with an illness that potentially could have been avoided. But people are going to do what they got to do.
But I think you made a really good point, though, that both sides do have competing reasonable and valuable interests.
Right.
And so we can only see what happens in the future.
Right. And just because somebody is on the other side of the argument doesn't mean you should berate or belittle them or call them a Martian or a green-haired, person or whatever it is. It's something to be respected, even if we don't agree with it. And that's kind of a way we like to approach things here on the TFWB, being respectful of
and
other
neutral
people's opinion.
And neutral.
Well, and potentially neutral. I mean, I've made my opinion on many things over the last 4 years, as you well know, because we finish a show and you chastise me for it. But I think we're respectful of everybody's point of view. I think that's important. So I saw an interesting article in The Atlantic a few weeks back. It was written by Derek Thompson, and he's written a number of columns in numerous magazines over the years. And he talks about this as being the golden age of labor readjustment. And he says, wow, employees are rethinking their jobs. They're rethinking how they want to go to their jobs. They're rethinking how much they want to get paid for what they do, what benefits they might have, and whether they're simply willing to walk away. He talks about the fact that automation is taking place and people are having the opportunity to move up the pay scale to other jobs. He talks about the fact that labor productivity is rising at its fastest rate in more than 20 years, and it's still accelerating. And he's saying, is this whole resignation thing part of some golden age of labor readjustment? Or is it just a short-term bump in response to COVID? Any thoughts, Nick?
Not on this one, Dave.
You got nothing, huh? You got nothing. You're getting ready to go read some con law.
Well, actually, to tell you the fun fact, I just looked up on Google the constitutionality of mandating COVID-19 vaccines in the workplace. So, that conversation really just fascinated me.
And law students, you guys just love the cutting edge stuff where there's good arguments on both sides.
Yeah. And Dave, I was just reading this article that I just pulled up, and it says the federal government's authority to institute a general vaccine mandate is unclear. Welcome to law, and has not yet been tested in the courts, though it is likely limited at best. So it'll be really interesting to see if there's going to be a challenge, and I highly presume there will.
Yeah. I can see where, if a business wants to require it, a private enterprise, a school, a business, a yogurt shop or whatever, that's going to be one cluster of arguments. But if the government were to come out and say, everybody's going to do this, I don't know. That's a different set of arguments altogether. I mean, there's something inviolate about, our bodies and what governmental entities want to do that. And, they were saying that in the vaccine, there were certain kind of metals so that people could track us with the new 5G.
Oh, yeah, of course. but
there's people that believe that, and if they want to, okay. I can't imagine, but okay.
but Dave, as both you and I learned in constitutional law, what the federal government can do or implement through federal government workers is a lot different than what the federal government can do for either state regulation or for private companies or corporations.
or for just up against the general public. If
Right.
the federal government says, "Hey, you want to work for us? You need a COVID shot." Okay, I think they've got the ability to do that. But if they come out and say everybody's going to get the shot, it starts to feel kind of Big Brother to me.
Yep. Commandeering, I believe it is.
Yeah. It's going to be interesting to see. But getting back to the point, and Mr. Thompson's article in the Atlantic, he was saying, look, is this really a golden age, or is this just a short-term response? And I think that the jury is still out. I think a lot of the stuff that we're seeing and the arguments for a potential golden age analysis are very, very interesting. We've been talking about this for a year, Nick. We've been talking about how people are going to telecommute. We've been talking about Zoom and people off the highway and all these other things. We've talked about, heck, the way that we produce the podcast, for that matter. Very interesting to see all these changes kind of come down the line.
Well, Dave, are you going to mandate that I get the vaccine? Or wait, I have the vaccine, but
yeah, if you want to be on the podcast, you got to have you got to have a shot, and not in the arm. We want everyone to get their shot right in the bottom there,
and make sure to bring your passport.
Well, that's a whole nother thing now. I'm traveling around, or not traveling around, but walking around with a picture of my vaccination record in my phone. So if anyone wanted to say, hey, have you had your vac, I can prove it,
Right.
And I would think entering some other country, I don't think that's unreasonable for some other country to want to protect their populace from something.
It's a new age, Dave.
You go to Hawaii, and the native Hawaiians tell you how when I believe it was the Spanish showed up, they carried a kind of a recessive like smallpox, and it wiped out huge amounts of the Hawaiian people. And so I think that, a country or people has a vested interest in protecting themselves.
Well, yeah, and for the public safety and welfare.
Yeah,
agreed.
Yeah. So Thompson goes on in his article to say this, and check this out, because I thought this was really interesting. He says that he wrote last year, and here's a quote: "A major crisis has a way of exposing what is broken and giving a new generation of leaders a chance to build something better, often in surprising ways. The Great Chicago Fire of 1871 contributed to the invention of the modern skyscraper. The East Coast blizzard of 1888 led to the first American subway system. The COVID-19 pandemic killed 600,000 people and led to a paradigm shift in workers' power. Might not sound like a particularly obvious cause and effect, but our responses to disasters can change the world in ways that are hard to foresee when we stare into the maw of the original crisis." Interesting, huh, Nick?
Very.
Yeah, I mean, maybe there'll be some good things. Well, obviously, there's going to be some good things out of all this difficulty, but maybe people are rethinking how and when they work and how much they want to work, and something interesting to think about. Now, If we're looking at all this cause and effect, I think this means that there's a lot of mobility out there and there's a lot of opportunity. Maybe it's time to move up. How about each of you out there, listeners? Time to move up, time to do something different, time to do something that's maybe a little more of a side gig. Something to think about. Well, I think that's about all the time that we have here this week. No emails. Nick, great to see you. Thanks for taking a break and joining us. We miss you.
Dave, it's been a pleasure too, and I missed you and Brian.
Great to see you. Hey, everybody out there, have a great week, and that's a wrap. This is Dave Hagan, and you've been listening to the Financial Wellness Podcast.
You've been listening to the Financial Wellness Podcast, Dave's weekly message to keep you on your path to financial success. If you have a question that you would like Dave to answer on the podcast, go to thefinancialwellnesspodcast.com. You can leave an audio message with one click of a button, or type your message into the question box. Either way, it's sent right to Dave's phone. Remember, Dave will randomly draw from the submitted questions and pick the winner of a free 1-hour personal conversation with Dave to help you achieve your financial goals. Don't forget to subscribe to the podcast so you receive the new episode notifications, or share the podcast via the app with your family and friends. This is your announcer, Nick Appel, wishing you every financial success.